Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Hold on a second, people. Hold on a second. My apologies. I had to get myself together here. I had to turn on the light because I didn't have enough lighting in here. But good afternoon, everybody. Good evening for some folks, and good morning in other places. Well, today I have a special guest with me to discuss Mr. McCraney case. I have his wife, Jeanette. Good afternoon, good evening. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good. That's good. It's great that you to have you here. I am so pleased. Shout out to chew.com because it was their video that helped me to understand your husband's case and there are a lot of people who don't know what's going on, what happened. So, we're going to start from the beginning, but how are you doing?
I'm hanging in here day by day.
Okay. By the grace of God, right?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Well, we have quite a few people in here. Let me just say hello to a couple of people in the chat. Hey, Robin, Thank you, Robin, for the new membership. Hey, Tammy, Nakenya, Tammy again. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Scholar. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Well, I am here to give you guys an insight to open some of you guys' mind and understanding exactly what happened. Um, to give you a little bit back history from what I've known, maybe Jeanette, maybe you want to start it off and just giving us a little background of exactly what happened back in 1999 in, or was it Ozark,
Yes, Ozark,
Alabama?
Alabama. Yes.
Alabama? Okay. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
In 1999, two young ladies were murdered. They were shot and found in their trunk back in July 31st of 1999.
Hmm.
So here we go. Fast forward 20 years later, they arrest my husband for the crime. And they say that it was his DNA that connected him to the crime.
Okay.
Actually, the specific DNA was semen. That's how they're saying that was his connection.
Okay. So this case happened back in 1999.
That's
Um,
correct.
and the two young ladies, did your husband know them at the time?
One of them, from what I'm understanding, yes.
One of them, and
Yeah, that's the one
your
he had relations with.
he had relationship with her. So how long did he know her before all of this happened?
From what I'm understanding, it was like just a quick meet and greet at the mall, and they just hit it off from there. That's from what I'm understanding.
Okay.
So at the time, me and him were not married. We were just living together at the time.
Okay.
So
Okay. So tell us a little bit how did they get his DNA? What happened?
January the 24th of 2019, we
Mhm.
went into the Ozark Police Department where
Mhm.
he had been called by an old classmate of his named Marlos, asking him to come and look at a family tree. So when we went in, they put me in one room, put him in another,
Mhm.
took him in there, talked to him for a while. Eventually, somebody kept coming in, checking on me. They finally came in and said, he's not in any trouble. I just need to talk to him for a few minutes by himself. So
Mhm.
when I went in the room, they let me finally go in the room. And I was asked, did I know anything about the crime that happened 20 years ago? Told them who didn't. Everybody knew,
Mhm.
because we're a small town. So they proceeded to say that if they had Coley's DNA, considering he didn't know anyone on that family tree, if they would get his DNA, it could strengthen that family tree and maybe he would know somebody because it was like some pings, I guess, with his DNA. And so my husband looked at me. He said, Jay, what do you think? And I was like, it's not like we got nothing to hide. So he looked at the officer and he said, we have nothing to hide. And so I said, if you do him, you got to do me because whatever he has, I got. You know, I
Mhm.
made light of the situation because never would I have thought 4 years later he would be convicted of this crime. So they took the swab, put it in a paper bag, threw it on the desk, and talked about basketball like it was nothing. Just saying that when they got it back, they would give him a call so he'd come back in and look at some more names. So when we left that day, my daughter had called about an incident here at home. So we left with no problems. And he told them that he was going back over the road. One of the officers kept saying that he wanted them to come back and play ball with him. It was a lot of sports talk. So you would have never thought they were looking at him for this crime or anything. We left, no problem. A few months later, my husband gets a call from him again, stating that he needs to come back in, look at some more names. Well, the particular weekend that he was coming in was the weekend that he was taking my daughter on her first college visit, which would have been like March the 17th. So he was coming in a few days early so they could get everything situated, because it was like 5 hours up the road where him and her would go. So he kept calling me that day, stating that he was trying to reach Marlos, who was the chief of police at the time, who he went to school with at one point. So he was trying to reach him to let him know, I'm coming. His load got delayed, so you know how that is. It pushes things back. But he didn't want the man to think, hey, that's just not him. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So he kept telling me, I keep trying to reach him, but he's not answering the phone. And he said, they keep telling me he's in a meeting. So I told him, just keep calling. He said, I'm going to try and come to the house first, get everything situated, and then we'll drive back. So that's what I was expecting, for him to come home, me take him back like I drove him on January 24th, just take him up there because he's been on the road. I knew it was going to be tired, whatever. Well, I made a joke. I said, you might better beat Live 360 home, because he had said he would be home by 3:30. Well, my daughter comes in later and she says, why is Dad in Ozark? I said, he shouldn't be in Ozark. He's supposed to be here. He's supposed to be coming here. So a couple hours later, I get a phone call from some detectives or some officer, and they told me that I need to get Ozark. So I asked why, what's going on? So they keep on just pedaling around. I said, finally, is something going on? What's going on? I have a few health issues. I need for you just to tell me what's going on. Has he been in an accident? What's what? They said, no. I said, you acting like he in trouble or something. They said, oh, yeah, he's in big trouble. So I said, okay, I'm on my way. Get ready to go up there. Had a few car trouble. Get a friend to take me on up there. They have us in this, I guess it's where the police officers train or something. So that's the address that they gave us to go to. So we get there. They wouldn't allow my friend to come in with me. But she made her way in there anyway, just to check out the space. But mind you, they told me my husband would be there, because they made the comment, he's not going to talk until you get here. So I'm still, at loss, not thinking, nothing. So after they made her pretty much get out, because she was just only allowed to use the restroom and leave, I heard the door lock, some files and stuff on the table. And they started talking to me about, did you know anything about this?
Hold on. So they said they hear the static from your side.
Is it okay now?
Say something.
Can you hear me okay now?
It's just a little static. Are you near another computer or something? Are you near? You are? So maybe it's the static from the other computer.
Okay, I just moved my laptop. Can you hear me now?
It's still kind of staticky.
Let's see. Try and move away from that computer. One moment.
Okay. Just bear with us, guys. Just bear with us.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's still a staticky.
I'm not sure why, because the computer's in another area now. So
lift up your iPad. Let's see if there's something on it. Say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you have a headphone with it? Maybe have you ever used a headphone with it?
No, I haven't. Am I too close to it? Is that what it is?
Does she sound better, guys? They asked, was there a mic attached to it? Is there a mic attached to it?
No more than the one that I can cut on and cut off. That's it.
I don't know why it's great. Let's see. Say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just, this is like a staticky sound to it.
I'm not sure why. Because all the electronics are out of the room now. So
They said both. You're both doing it. Do y'all hear me like that too? Hit the go into setting and then hit your audio
okay.
and hit cancel echo. Mark
Will
the
it will it click me off of you
No,
if
you
I
won't.
log?
Go. Uh-uh.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Did you mark off echo?
I'm looking for it now.
If you go into hit setting, and then you should see general, you should see camera, and you should see audio. If you click
Yes.
audio, if you click
Yes.
audio, does it have a default there that says built-in mic?
I did reduce loud sounds.
Is there echo cancellation?
Yes, I cut off the echo cancellation.
You did that one. Hit it again and see. How's that now?
Yes.
Say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Let me see if I can get back then. Let's see.
They said much better. Tammy said better. He said it sounds fine. Yeah, you much better now.
Okay.
Now we can't see you.
Now I just got to find you again.
Okay.
I know, right?
Are you
Let's see.
They say you're perfect now.
Can you see me now?
Now we see you. Now back to
Okay, good.
Now what were you were saying that you went back into your girlfriend left out and they were asking you questions and then
Yes, it was some files and stuff on the table.
uh-huh.
And so they started talking about his DNA and everything. And I said, what did he do? Sleep with him? You know, that was the first thing I said, because what else could it have been? You know? And so the guy, he makes a comment, we're not here for argument's sake, which I wasn't arguing or anything. And that's when I said attorney. You know, I automatically said attorney because I started looking around and I'm thinking, I don't see Coley anywhere. So I know something's not right as well. So he says, this was a courtesy for us to bring you here. And I said, where's Coley? And they said, he's being arraigned right now for capital murder with 5 charges. It was like 5 different charges. So you lost me when you said 5, and you really lost me when you said capital murder. So I asked, could I please see him? You know, he said, we'll let you go over, but it's just a courtesy. So me and my friend, I got in her car, went back out. They had to unlock me out, get in her car, we go to the jail. While I was standing out there, one of the detectives was standing there. And the first thing she said was, are you good with dates? And I said, yes. She said, do you have a 13-year-old child? I said, no. I said, I have a 12-year-old granddaughter. You know, I said, maybe she wears a 13 size shoe, you know, something like that. You know, just trying to make light still. I'm trying to figure out, why am I even here? And it was kind of chilly. So finally, she was like, we're going to let you go in, but it's not going to be long. So when I go in the door, it's a older white guy standing right here to my right, and another gentleman, the gentleman that told me we weren't there for argument's sake. He was there, and he goes over the rules. You'll get 5 minutes only. Well, mind you, I'm trying to figure out, where's the truck? You know, so I'm looking for the big diesel truck. I still don't see it outside. So as they let me go in, he tell Coley it'd only be 5 minutes. First thing I notice, he has his headset on. So I take his headset off, and he grabs my shirt and pulls me closer. And he tells me, he says, I don't understand. What does that 5 mean? And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't get it. I don't understand. He said, I couldn't have hurt nobody. He said, Jay, you know, I couldn't have hurt nobody. He said, get my children, get my grandbabies, tell them I couldn't hurt nobody. And he just kept on and he was crying. And so as he was crying, he was pulling me closer and closer. He had his hands cuffed and they had him like in a corner. And so I reached in his pocket. I said, "Where's the truck, Coley? Because I'm trying to just, find out everything." And he says, "It's outside." That right there, I know it's not a truck outside, but later on, that clicks. He's not in his right frame because he's thinking he drove this truck to this place. And so he kept telling me, he said, "I didn't do it. I couldn't hurt nobody." He said, "Jay, I couldn't hurt." He just on repeat, just kept telling me he couldn't hurt nobody. And I took my shirt, put it over his face and wiped his face. I said, "They don't get this side. They don't get this side. You straight." I'm trying to be tough for him, not understanding really what's at stake right now. So I wiped his face, tell him they don't get this side of you. So as I did that, I said, I'm asking again, what else? Where's your wallet? Where's your keys? Whatever. Because I know I'm going to have to try and get an attorney. I need to find, I need his wallet. I need whatever I can get. So he says they took it. So as I'm reaching in his pocket, it was some keys. So I grabbed the keys and the guy busted in the door. He said, "What did you just take?" And I said, "His keys." And I kind of just flicked them like that. He said, "Can I get them?" And I said, "No." I just flipped them at him like that. He said, "Well, I need to count them." I said, "Where's his wallet?" And he says, "We have it. We'll give it all to you." I said, "Where's the truck?" He said, "We had it towed." I said, "You didn't even give me a chance, to get up here and get it, Mm-hmm. And he said, "Well, he's about to be charged with 5 counts of capital murder and rape and kidnapping." So now I'm like, what do I'm lost. I'm lost for words now. So he's like, "We'll meet you outside." I was like, "Well, can I get his stuff?" He says, "I'll sign it all off to you when you get outside." So get outside. He gives me the wallet, counts out everything, counts out all the money or whatever. But before I leave Cole, I said, "Don't you worry. I'm going to get an attorney." Well, not knowing how I'm going to get it, but by the grace of God. So they do that. I go to visit family. Mind you, by the time I get to his mother's house, who is only at the time probably 3 miles away, we call back to the jail because it's like they're in disbelief as well. So I'm calling the jail and they're telling me they don't have a Coley McCraney. So the whole time I'm like, I'm confused because I know for a fact, I'm telling his cousin, I know they have Coley. I just left Coley. So he's steady calling. We're trying to find out where is he at, because now I'm thinking, I know this is something that I'm just making up. Something's not right. So my friends are calling my kids, telling our kids to get to Dothan, because we had one in Troy at the time, and our 6-year-old was still here. And so telling them to get to the house. We sent our 6-year-old to go get our oldest, to go get him from Troy. First time riding over the road like that. We just knew the severity of everything. So that night, we steady calling. Well, I ended up having to be with family. They took me out of town. No, I'm sorry. That next day was the day that she was supposed to be leaving for college. So I ended up with all this, having to drive to North Alabama, where she had got accepted into college for her college visit. The whole time calling different attorneys because I don't know who to call. All I know is I need to find somebody that deals with crime, or I'm just lost. We've never had to have an attorney for anything. So the whole time I'm driving there, I didn't even go in with her to her college visit. A friend of hers did. I can't tell you that I visited that campus. I didn't do anything on that campus because I'm trying to find out an attorney for him. Mm-hmm. The whole time, again, I'm still calling the jail. Nobody knows where Coley is. They're telling me they don't have one still. Little did I know that he was still in that interrogation room, being held for 27 hours, 8 of those being in handcuffs. So, of course, that's why they're telling me he's not there, because he really wasn't at the jail. He was still in the interrogation room, So, but I find this out later. But on that Sunday, we get a call from David Harrison, an attorney, calls me and says that he was with my husband. And I asked my husband, he said, "Would you like to speak with him?" I said, "Yes." Because now I'm overjoyed. But I'm thinking, okay, we got him. We found him. And my husband said, "He's the one." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "He's the one." He said that discernment kicked in. He's the one. And so little did I know, a couple hours later, this same attorney would call me and say, "Did you hire somebody else?" And I'm like, "No, sir." I'm like, "He said you're the one, you're the one." Little did I know that another attorney that had previously worked with people from the other side had went in there to try and see my husband, knowing that at one point he was in a lawsuit against somebody else, dealing with this same case.
Mm-hmm.
So our attorney got there in time to kind of block that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fast forward, we got the attorneys, everything. Find out that all they got on him is DNA. When they had him in there questioning him, my husband said he did not know the girls. That was one of the questions that they asked. But they didn't put like actual photos of the girls out. They put like the autopsy, I guess that's what you call them, photos,
Mm-hmm.
and pictures of us. And then on the right side, you finally see a picture of one of the girls, but you put autopsy photos out. And so, of course, he says, what am I supposed to do with that? Within that first hour, my husband asked for an attorney. They never would get him one. At one point, the investigator told him, attorney can't help you.
Wow.
He asked for an attorney by name as well. That attorney still wasn't called in. So 8 times that he asked for an attorney before they finally left him in that room. They gave him a cot, took the cot away, and brought back like a child's mat, like you use at pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
They brought him one of those and 2 thin sheets. He had to go to the restroom, so you have to bang on the door for somebody to just come and let him go to the restroom. Every time they would come in, they would ask, well, if you got something to tell us, you need to just say it. You look like you're breaking. You need to tell us. Well, he's asking, still, is the attorney here? Still no attorney. There's no attorney. So they kept him in this room until he eventually fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
They got him some French fries or something, but of course he couldn't eat. It was fries and like a sandwich. I can't remember exactly where it was from. They let him sleep for hours without anybody coming in there. The next morning, he was taken off of camera by Marlos, who was the chief of police at the time. From what's been stated, Marlos told him at first, you don't have to talk about the case, but you can. So, and at that time, Marlos told him that he didn't think he did it, that he thought Brantley Seagal did it.
What was the name again?
Brantley Seagal.
Brantley Seagal? Okay.
Seagal, yes.
Seagal.
And so Marlos told him that. So, of course, Coley, he has
Oh,
nothing to tell.
who's Brantley Seagal?
He was one of the judge's sons. And some people say he killed himself. Some people say other things. You just don't know how the poor child died. But that's who they were saying did it. And for years, that's who you heard committed this crime. Either him or a cop, so because it was rumors of a cop as well. So for years, that's all you knew. So, I mean, we just kind of went downhill from there. Like big time downhill.
Okay. When you said that when your husband gave his DNA, you said they just put it on the side, so they didn't do anything?
He put it in a brown paper bag.
Mm-hmm.
He dropped the thing in a brown paper bag and put it on his desk. Just put it to the side on his desk and went on to talking about sports again. So like it was nothing. So little did we know that my husband was wanted for a crime that he had nothing, he knew nothing about.
Okay.
We didn't know that he was wanted for something, because otherwise we would have gotten an attorney. We would have tried our best to, I don't care, would have went and pleaded and begged, say we needed help. We would have never just gave our DNA, well, his DNA, knowing that it would turn around and he would get arrested for this crime that he didn't commit. And he didn't get the chance to speak with an attorney upon all those questioning, all of those questions. He never got a chance. They wouldn't give him an attorney. So of course you can't tell your side of the story if you're not given that opportunity in front of an attorney. As African Americans, we know you don't speak without an attorney, but he was never given that chance. So 4 years later, here we go. We're just not going to trial. There was no signs of rape in the autopsy that was done.
Mm-hmm.
There's no signs. Never had you heard the word rape until at one of our court proceedings, that same investigator, Michael Bryan, said that since my husband claimed he didn't know them, it was rape. So that was the first time like it really came out that it was rape. He said the totality of the fact that it is rape because he claimed that he did not know them. So that's where the rape part comes in.
Okay.
And everything else just kind of followed suit.
Okay. Fast forward go back to when the original case was being investigated. Did they have like a DNA of a person that they were looking for, a person of interest or anything like that?
Never that I know they kept saying something about the DNA, but never did they say African American male or anything of that stature. They just kept saying that it was DNA left behind, but nothing like that. And like I say, then you hear the rumors that the girls, like I said, that Brantley Seagull, whose grandfather and father was judges and a high profile family. So you're thinking, okay, this is something out of TV. You know, you're thinking they did it, and now it's a big cover up because you got all these people covering up for this young man. But I mean, never once did you hear that it was looking for an African American male, because you could get pulled up for a traffic stop back in Ozark, and they was doing your DNA test.
Oh, they was doing
Another,
your DNA with traffic stop?
with anything. Like they had people, cops were giving their DNA. I mean, come on, why would cops give their DNA? Another man was arrested for the crime. Barrington, he's passed away now. He was arrested for it. They only let him out because his DNA did not match. But mind you, again, the DNA was semen. So who's to say the relation happened somewhere else? Somebody else killed you. They never factored that in, except for like years ago, when the chief of police made that comment that, the person who left the DNA doesn't necessarily mean it's the person who committed the crime. But guess what? That video has disappeared. It's a lot of things that were on YouTube that have disappeared. Like they got rid of them.
Yeah.
Anything but before 2015, a lot of stuff they were trying to get rid of, some of the statements they made.
Wow. As far because I was looking at because I've been researching since I heard about this case, I started doing some research, and there was this guy who was doing a podcast about the whole thing, and he was trying to do some breakdown on it. And one of the things he mentioned was they supposedly were supposed to be going to a party for her birthday or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
okay, do you know anything about that? Can you give me?
Some people said it was a birthday party, and then some people were saying that it was her friend's birthday party.
Mhm.
But no, it was never proved to be her birthday party. Because I mean, if you left home and you knew you had a curfew, you left home after 10 knowing that you had a curfew at 11:30. I mean, you couldn't have been going to a birthday party.
Okay,
I mean,
did your
that
husband had already set up? Because I was reading something where they were saying that they had agreed to meet, your husband and her. And so is that how they end up having sex? Because according to the report, it said that she climbed up in his truck and they had sex in the truck.
yeah, they had already made plans to meet. So it's something like whenever he came back in town, because he was
Mhm,
over the road.
mhm,
And
mhm,
back then, like I told him, we had beepers, pagers or whatever. So she would call his mom's house, and that's how the meeting up would happen. Because first of all, if she would have called his beeper, I would have knew. I checked everything. And
mhm.
I was even questioning about. They say that the girl had mud on her pants, on the inside of her pants, and he would have had to be muddy. Well, Miss Sylvia, he wouldn't have came home muddy for the simple fact the apartment we lived in at that time didn't have a back door. We didn't have, it's like a one door apartment,
Mhm.
one bedroom, no washer and dryer. I would have noticed if this man had anything on him. I don't care if it was 20 years ago. That's something that would have stuck out to me, you
Mhm.
know. And we
Mhm.
had rules of our house that at 11:30 we had the old fashioned chains that go on your door.
Mhm.
So that would go on. And that way, if he came in after that, yeah, your key would open that door, but that chain would catch. So I would have to, get up, slide that chain off to let him in. But neither one of us would come in after 1 o'clock. That's something that we set in stone from the beginning. And
Mhm.
see, the time frame that we had doesn't match with what they're saying. You
But
know,
they said in the report that his car had broken down.
yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
so can you give us a little bit, tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that? What happened with
He
that?
got home like around a quarter till or whatever. And when he came in, he told me the car had broke down again.
Mhm.
Well, normally I don't have to get up in the middle of the night to go try and help you with a car. So that's something that stuck to me too. So we got to the Big and Little and parked off of Broad Street. That's where his car was located. at the same store that the girls were last seen. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that they keep talking about. His car was actually on the side right there. You couldn't help but see the car because it was off of Broad Street, right off of the street. And we jumped the car off, and he played with it just a little bit, trying to get the car to do whatever. And we finally got it, and we followed each other home and went home. We were home no later than a couple of minutes after 1:20 at the latest. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he was never out of my sight other than when he was up under that, the hood of the car. That
Mm-hmm.
was it. So, but
Because
other
one of
than
the
that,
things they said she died between the hours of 1 and 4 in the morning or something like that. That's what I was reading somewhere.
yeah. And then sometimes the time has changed so much
Mm-hmm.
to the point that they really don't, it's like they don't know when it happened. Because you're here 2, you're here 3, you don't know. They don't know when it happened.
Okay.
It's like, I mean, it's just the weirdest thing ever. You can't pinpoint what time they died because they said something about the heat. It was so hot, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that you couldn't just pinpoint anything. And one of the newspaper guys, Dan Driver, he pinpointed the same car after the time frame, after 2, where he saw the car on one side of the road come back up and it's on another side of the road. But one time he saw it with an undercover car. The next time he saw it with an actual police car. So, I mean, he witnessed that he seen the doors open to the car, you know,
Mm-hmm.
front window down, door open towards like the ravine or the little waterway. And that's like, that didn't matter. It didn't matter that he saw this car after the fact of my husband would have been home. It doesn't, it's like they erased that. And they even erased the fact that it was a car. The car is gone. They got rid of the crime scene completely.
Okay. The other thing I was reading too, because you remember I was telling you I did my homework researching it. They said there was her license was on the dashboard of the car.
Mm-hmm.
Why would
Well,
her license be on a dashboard of the car?
Well, they're claiming, considering it was 2 cops that had their fingerprints in the vehicle, they're
Mm-hmm.
claiming that when the car was first found, one of the officers got inside because he noticed a purse. And he's claiming that he pulled the license out of the car and put it up there. But then he left the car unattended, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
they were told just to keep watch on the car, which don't make sense. You just found the car with 2 17-year-olds supposedly missing or whatever, and you left it unattended. Didn't even think to pop the trunk. But nobody thought to pop the trunk until another officer came from a whole different city to open the trunk. They couldn't figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's puzzling, all of it.
Well, what I'm gonna do, guys, I'm gonna play the father of the young lady, Miss Beasley, her father, and you do know him, right? You did
Yes,
meet him. Okay, so
yes.
before I play, could you give us a little bit of background who he is and what his thought is about this whole case?
He does not believe that my husband did it. He personally has told me he does not believe my husband did it. And he did this on the courtroom steps. He told me that he didn't believe my husband had anything to do with this. While he was in court, it's like they tried to discredit him to make him think that he's crazy. But he had his own set of investigators working this case. And
Yeah,
from what he's gathered, saying it was some stuff that the officers or somebody had on the girls, and he's thinking that's what happened to the girls. And
and
he
I
even
would.
went as trying to name one of the officers who he felt was responsible.
Yeah, and when I pull up some documents and I saw that your husband's attorney was requesting the evidence that he had given the father had given to the prosecution, they never returned it back to him, and that
That's
was one of the things that he was asking for. They never gave it back.
that's correct.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead on and play this for you guys so they can. All right.
The thing that I discovered that impressed me the most as evidence had to do with forensic exams and the wide spacing of those exams time-wise to uh, hopefully shed some light on maybe some some DNA misuse.
So that's the Dr. Wagner when they originally did the autopsy of JB, correct?
Right.
That's what you're.
This was on August the 2nd, 1999. Gregory P. Wagner said in his forensic exam that a vaginal examination found no damage either to the cells in the vagina or the mucous membrane called the hymen, and that a vaginal swab found no evidence of foreign DNA. So at the time, I think it caused Chief Spivey to say on WDHN that there was no rape involved.
Right.
Uh,
And he also said that to Jackie Burgoon at one point.
Correct. Then on February the 2nd, 2019, some 19 years and 6 months after Dr. Wagner's finding, a DNA sample was submitted by Marlis Walker, the chief of police in Ozark, Alabama. And then a month later, on March 22nd, 2019, a forensic exam was redone by a young woman named Taryn Bostic. And in this re-examination, Taryn Bostic found that there was DNA of Mr. McCraney on a vaginal swab that was said to be from J.B. Beasley. Said to be.
Right. And who had custody of that evidence in those years in between the original test and the test by Bostic?
These forensic evidences were supposed to be in an evidence locker.
In Ozark.
I think, I'm not sure about that. It was either at the Alabama Hospital for Forensic Medicine in Montgomery or in Ozark. But if someone who has access to a sample of DNA and to a forensic locker, then a stage is set for mischief.
Is that what you think happened here?
I'll be very surprised if that's not what happened to Mr. McCraney.
Because then the only other explanation would be that the original test was a mistake somehow.
That's the only other possibility.
There's a car dealership that was owned by W.D. Williams at that time.
Williams, Pontiac, Chevrolet.
In Ozark.
Yeah.
And W.D. Williams' son, Michael Williams, who we both know, I know he's told me, and he's on the record saying that his father had all kind of connections, but he ran a illegal sports gambling and narcotics business. Now, this is his own son that says this.
Yes, he's told me the same thing.
Yeah. So and there seems to be, which I'll get you a copy of this, there are FBI documents that indicate that one of Michael's assertions that everyone says is crazy, that his father had a black detective in Dothan murdered, hired a hitman to kill him, did in fact happen. The FBI has closed the case. I think all the people involved were deceased at this point. But that, to me, that tends to corroborate Michael's opinion or allegations, I guess, that his father did that. So if that's true, then there would have to have been, it's not unusual in small towns. There are narcotics operations going on. That's no fantasy. The money has to go somewhere, right? So you believe that somehow JB, how do you believe the deaths are related to a drug operation? Let's just say there is one that's not, that's somehow influencing police and the judicial system in the Ozark or Wiregrass area. Tie that together to me, in your opinion, if you what you suspect or what you think is possible. Let's just call it possible, and not.
Well, I offered some testimony, and she was an OPD female officer, and she testified that OPD had Tracy and JB killed because they were supposed to give testimony against OPD at a trial in early October. She said the girls had tapes of conversations that would have damaging effects on OPD officers and local businessmen.
But I know that she did come forward and she said in a series of text messages to Jackie and I think the Houston County Deputy Donovan Arias, he confirmed to me that she did say this. And the cold case investigator for the Attorney General, Sean Smith, confirmed that she said these things. But I had not heard the tape part. You know something about the tapes because 2 weeks after the murder, when you spoke to, who was the police officer from Ozark that interviewed you? It wasn't Tipton, it was that asked about recordings and so forth.
About 2 weeks after the death of the girls, I was interviewed by an OPD representative named Eddie Henderson.
Okay.
And he wanted to know what a typical weekend was like when JB came to visit me in Goshen. And I told him we like to ride dirt roads and listen to country music and other tapes and enjoy frog legs at Preston's restaurant. He asked me if our sessions of listening to music, if JB had ever played a tape that sounded odd. And I said, in what way? And he said, like a tape of conversations with a party going on in the background. And I told him, no, that she had never played a tape like that for him. But then later, with officer's testimony, I put two and two together and reasoned that maybe there was some validity to the tapes explanation.
Right. Did they ever come and assume JB had a room wherever you lived then? Did they ever want to come and search that room, or?
They did not.
Did you ever hear Cheryl talk about them coming and cleaning out her room? Anyone?
I never heard her say that.
Have you ever heard that about the Hollets? Someone?
Yes.
Tell me what you heard about that.
Well, I heard that the house was broken into on two different occasions just before the girls, like a day or so before, the girls were murdered. And I think maybe, although they didn't tell me this, they assumed that it had to do with the tapes.
And it was only her room that was
ransacked.
Yeah. So what if you had to guess where JB was at that point in her life and who do you think she was interacting with in Ozark? If you just had to guess.
Well, she couldn't return to her mother's house after they had the big falling out and something of a fracas.
Mm-hmm.
And so Patty Simpson, her dance instructor, was nice enough to allow her to move in with her Patty,
Right.
and her husband, Dr. Simpson.
And that's where they could finish school. She could finish that senior year.
She wanted to do that, and then I was suing for custody, and my lawyer was telling me that it was going well, so we assumed that she would come to live with me in Goshen after I gained custody.
Right. Did she ever mention anybody in Ozark or any of these people to you, or did you ever have any of her friends come to you and tell you anything? Or?
I had a small trailer on Gant Lake, and she used to come up and visit, and we'd ski and ride wave runners and that sort of stuff. And she brought a young man named Terry, and that was the only person that in the way of a male that I ever met.
That time frame?
Right.
Where was he from?
He was from Ozark.
Ozark? Terry.
I think he knew Wackley.
He knew Michael Williams.
Right.
This guy, Terry.
Terry, right. They may have played cards or something together.
Okay.
But then I would see JB whenever I went to sessions in Ozark with the people who run a center for troubled parents and children. So.
Right.
And we'd eat at Mama Rosa's Pizza, where those girls would walk in and just wow everybody.
Yeah, they were beautiful girls, no doubt. Yeah.
And smart.
Yeah. So what you think somehow, tell me about the precinct party, what you've heard, or has anybody ever come to you and talk to you about that, or what you know about that? Or
that was the name given to them, I think, by the attendees and maybe some of the people who were a little critical of them. But anyway, it was a place where outstanding entrepreneurial types from the community and public officials and police would gather to celebrate, laugh, and imbibe and good beers and spirits and enjoy the company of some pretty young women.
And JB went to these things, you think? Is that your?
Well, as it later came to me, I was a little slow analyzing all this. The girls were there, and I realized this after talking with Eddie Henderson. I realized that the girls were there to gather information to try to get a male friend of theirs out of the Hooskow.
Did you know who that was?
I don't.
What makes you think you're talking to Henderson? What makes you
Okay, John, this product belongs to John. I'm sorry, John, I forgot to give you credit. I apologize. This is John's credit for his work. He is the interviewer, and he's in the chat right now. Thank you for reminding me, John. Thank you. I apologize. Guys, please go and check him out. He says he's the copyright holder of this. So this is for copyright, the usage. Thank you, John, for reminding me. I apologize. All right, guys, let me go ahead and finish playing this. It says, nope, you're doing no use it all you want. No, I just want to give you your credit. I want to give you your credit. Okay. Yeah, this is John. Thank you, John. He did excellent job with these interviews and getting this information out. Thank you so much for allowing the usage of this. All right. Let me go back and play it.
think that was true? The mention of the tapes and the parties, that comment?
Yeah, the connection with.
And then our mutual friend, Mr. Williams, is the one that seems to know a lot. He thinks that there were tapes of that party. Has anyone else ever come to you through the years and tried to?
No one.
Tell me about the Ozark police meeting with you the other day. You thought these people were from the state?
I did, with the Alabama Bureau of Investigation. As it turns out, he had recently transferred from the state to the city of Ozark.
Lieutenant Bryan.
Lieutenant Bryan.
So you thought you were meeting with someone from the state, and he's actually a member of the Ozark Police Department.
Yes. Well, and I thought he was embedded in the Ozark Police Department because he said things have changed since we've been there, talking about the police department. Mm-hmm. So.
Change how? What?
From a time when police committed acts of violence on.
But he took your notes, right? How did that go down? How did that take place?
Well, I thought that I could possibly help the investigation if he had those notes, because I had already committed them to memory, and I could produce another set of notes, and some of those notes belong to Wilkie.
Mm-hmm.
And
so tell me what your thoughts are on Coley McCraney. Your best guess. And I understand it's your opinion of what you've been privy to.
Well, I think he was unfortunate to trust a friend of his with a sample of his DNA. Because I've met the man and his wife, mm-hmm. and his son gave a really good assessment of his situation at the court that was held to decide whether or not he'd be bound over without bond.
What did the son say? Best you remember, what was compelling about that?
Well, he said he was a dad that loved his family, but wasn't averse to a little disciplinary action from time to time. But his son really admired his dad.
So your instincts, as one of the victim's father, you just don't think this is the guy.
I do not. And largely because of the DNA debacle with the state forensics department in Montgomery, Alabama.
So let's say that, I'm thinking out loud, let's say that DNA somehow shows that there was contact between JB and him. If that was proven, would that alter how you think, or would you still think that there's a chance that someone else killed him?
Well, I don't.
I know that's a what if, but I'm just.
I would have to hear a statement from Taryn Bostic, who did the last forensic search, mm-hmm. And ask her what she meant when she said McCraney's DNA came from a vaginal swab that was said to be from J.B. Beasley. It seems like she has some doubt about the origin of the vaginal swab. So I would need that explained.
Right. So either they made a mistake, Wagner made a mistake originally with the documents that you've seen, and 19 years later, they retest it, and it shows McCraney's DNA. But that doesn't make sense because think about this. They have been looking for a match to the DNA all these years, right? Because when they've interviewed people, they've taken DNA swabs. They've taken DNA. I'm agreeing with you. There's a problem with the DNA. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just thinking out loud, right? All these years, Tony Spivey and Rex Tipton have said, we have semen from one of the victims that we believe was the killer. But they've said there was no evidence of rape, right? That's been consistent.
Yes.
So every time they have interviewed somebody that has something to do with this case or that's a person of interest or a suspect, when they DNA test them, they exclude them because they don't match. So all the potential suspects of this case have been let back out on the street without a harder look because they didn't match the DNA. So somehow there has to be a record of that DNA that they had all these years.
Or not.
They'd have to be, because then what are they testing it against? How are they excluding them?
Well,
see what I'm saying?
You
and I are kind of figuring this out as we go, but that's a problem.
Well, there's a new.
They called him in the database of the genealogy thing.
That's it.
That's what they match.
Powerball, I think, is the name of the organization. But
the evidence, though, talking about, that's still a problem, because having evidence on, I think they said the shirt, and I thought they said the skin, and the underpants, and the vaginal swab. If you throw the vaginal swab out of the picture, you're still left with DNA on the panties and on the blouse,
which were in the evidence locker. All these items were in the evidence locker, and they're listed by Gregory P. Wagner when he did the first forensic test, and they were listed again by Taryn Bostic when she does the forensic test, 19 years, and
they were all the same, but not the vaginal swab. Is that what you're saying? They tested DNA positive on the other?
No, nothing was tested positive by Gregory Wagner.
Well, where the hell did they come up with the DNA then? That's what you're asking.
Marlis Walker talked Colin McCraney into submitting a DNA sample.
So your one possibility is that DNA, they knew, someone could have known that McCraney and JB had contact all these years. And so when they want this to go away, they just go get his DNA, and then they come back and put it on the things that Wagner tested 20 years ago. That's the conspiracy.
That is the conspiracy.
That's what you believe. And unless it's proven otherwise.
Unless it's proven otherwise, yeah. I think that's what the evidence suggests.
Well, go back to the car a minute. Let's switch gears a minute. On the car, is there anything in JB's past or any way who she hung around, Is there any way that she would have been around people firing pistols with 14 shells in her trunk that you know of?
No way.
So in every one of those shell casings, there are no fingerprints, is my understanding.
That's the way I understand it.
So, not that is your understanding that there are no fingerprints in the car? Any evidence other than what do you know about the car? I guess.
Well, I know that it was towed from the scene of the crime to the police station, and it was kept there for almost 2 years.
Where they do the forensic research thing. All right, what happened then? You've got those notes.
According to whom I gave the limited power of attorney,
This was to do a public records request.
yes. He said that he had called the Alabama Bureau of Investigation Vehicle Division and talked with a guy named Jim Rogers and was told that JB's Mazda had changed hands 3 times. It was sold as salvage to a dealer in North Alabama who got rebuilt title and then sold it to someone in Mobile, Alabama. It was sold from the Pontiac place. Pontiac.
So it went back to the Pontiac place?
Yes.
The Williams that originally started in the drug conspiracy in Ozark ended up going to North Alabama and buying this car back and bringing it all the way back to Ozark.
No, they took it from the police station and brought it directly to Pontiac. The driver was Terry Price.
That's the tow truck driver?
Yeah.
And so then after it left the Pontiac place, it went off to the North Alabama.
To North Alabama.
So who requested that the car go to the Pontiac place?
Rex Tipton. This is according to Terry Price.
That's just strange. So in the car, what were the items missing from the car that you know of that were JB's?
A keychain.
That's the thing that said hard to get on it, the little key
That's
fob.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what else?
And that's it.
Was there a ball cap or?
Oh yeah, there was a ball cap that was missing, and I don't know.
Was it a Boston Red Sox baseball cap? Like that you bought her?
No, I didn't buy it, and I don't know whom it belonged to, but there was a ball cap involved.
Okay. So all these years, the police never shared information with you and never came, this is our update, this is what we're doing.
None.
Did you try to reach out to them?
Not really.
Do you think there is a chance that JB was involved with one of these police officers in some kind of intimate way or inappropriate way for someone of that age?
I have no way of knowing, but I kind of doubt it though, because JB was out front,
right,
behaviorally, and
they were beautiful girls.
It's in a way it's hard to live with 2 angels, dead angels dancing in your head, but they were such inspirations when they were here. They could walk in Mama Rosa's and everybody would stop eating pizza if that ain't strong enough for you.
Huh. That is. How would you describe JB to me or someone that never is going to meet her? How would you describe her?
She used the language well. She had a sense of humor. She appreciated jokes even when there were jokes on her. She was beautiful. She was athletic. Just always a lot of fun.
Wow. John, click the link. I just put the link in there for you. Hit the link. There's a couple of people was asking you some questions, if you don't mind. Jeanette.
Yes.
Woof.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yep. Unbelievable.
Here's some questions that I have. Throughout the trial, I know you was there throughout the whole trial. What evidence did they show?
Towards
Other-
my husband?
Yeah, other than the DNA.
Nothing.
Nothing?
No. I was actually on another floor. I was subpoenaed, and I could only come in once I testified. And then after I testified, they had it so I still couldn't come in the room. I couldn't come in until the day that my husband got the verdict, pretty much. So, but people were texting me, along the way. But all they presented was DNA. That's it.
Just the DNA.
Yes, ma'am.
So
DNA alone.
here's my question. Did the chief police officer know that your husband had relationship with JB?
I wouldn't know. I don't know.
But they were friends, right?
Oh no, just in school. Like they hadn't seen each other in years and just hung out. Nothing like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just a school thing. Because I had never met him, and I've been with my husband 25 years. And the first time I met him was 4 years ago. So it was no friendship thing, nothing like that. But in school, everyone says the only reason like Marlos would be in some of the crowds is because Coley would say, "Let him come on," But other than that, Coley was just nice to him.
So he's younger than your husband or older?
They're in the same age range.
Same age. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was reading some misconduct. Do you know what the misconduct was for the chief? Hey, John.
For the chief?
Yeah, what Marlos?
It was something that happened up under his watch at the police force. That's all I know. But I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Okay, so you don't know exactly why he was
dismissed
after resigned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not sure.
Welcome, John. How are you? You muted. Can't hear you.
There we go.
Still muted. You might have to go to your settings and then set it for you to be able to talk. Okay, we're gonna wait for John to come back because his audio was not working too well. But
well,
how do you
I want to mention something. The man that arrested my husband, Lieutenant Bryant, he is also the father-in-law. I mean, he's also the son-in-law to the guy that was implicated in this crime. The cop that was implicated in this crime. Yeah. And so it's a lady by the his father-in-law was one that was questioned about this crime, if he killed the girls. But this investigator never did investigate his own father-in-law. That he stated that in court, knowing that his father-in-law was implicated in this crime. But he's the one that they sent out for everything when it comes to like questioning about this crime. Even it's a lady by the name of Renee Crum, who claims to have been beaten by the police and all that. He's the one, the same guy, Michael Bryan, is the one that was questioning her he went to her house, knowing that his father-in-law was being implicated in this crime. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like a scare tactic or what, but he's like everywhere, all in this. He has his mic muted.
Now you're muted. You muted yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
We still don't hear you. Is your mic being used on another app? Maybe it's on the other side. Maybe the YouTube. Do you still have YouTube on? Seems like your mic might be used by another app. Go into settings and then go into your audio and see if that helps.
Okay, what about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm not real.
That's okay. Well, welcome, John. Thank you so much for allowing me to use your footage. Thank you so much. There was a couple of people asking you some questions inside the chat, and I know you typed up something. What was the thing that you typed up that you worked as a sworn office investigator?
I have. I worked as a law enforcement officer.
Uh-huh.
I worked for Chief Ronnie Benefield at the Louisville Police Department for a period of time on cold cases. And then I've been appointed to capital murder cases from the state, with the last case with Will Dickerson in a different county, not Dale County.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little bit of experience,
Mm-hmm.
that just a little. I guess I know the questions to ask.
Okay, John is here, guys, for you to ask him any question you have.
I was allowed to review the case files in this case, though.
You wasn't?
I was, yes.
Oh, you was. Okay. One of the questions they asked is, what made you interview Mr. Beasley?
I think it was about 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
J.B. Beasley's half-sister Jackie Burgoon started a social media type campaign to try to bring attention to her sister's case in Tracy Hollett's, and started following that. And she asked me if I would interview her. There were like 6 people in my community that had a kind of online newspaper blog.
Mm-hmm.
I did most of the photography. As you can see, I can't spell very well or write, but and so I interviewed her about what you guys were just talking about. Rena Crum was I think she was a reserve or auxiliary officer for the Ozark Police. Miss McCraney may know the right term. I think they use auxiliary down there.
Yeah.
So she was on track to go to the academy and become a sworn officer. And the half sister Jackie Burgoon, I can send you a link to this if you want.
Yeah, please, so I can.
You're welcome to use all this. All of my work is nonprofit, so I don't, it doesn't matter to me who uses it. Just try to give me a little nod or.
Thank you. I will do that.
But that's not, I'm not going to complain about that. She had a really fascinating story that seemed unbelievable, because what she maintained is that an officer that was intoxicated at a party, if I remember correctly, shared that he had actually been involved in these murders, and that it was started off as it was an accident, kind of spiraled out of control. And I'll let her, you can read it. And if you don't have it, I can give you the transcript of one of the Ozark police officers' body cam video. I think the court sealed that now, but I'm sure Miss McCraney.
Why did they seal it?
I don't know. This is a very conservative judge, So I can't, I'm not in a position to, say whether he did right or wrong. I don't know enough about the law to know if that's within his discretion. It may be. I don't know. I just know what she said, and it's excuse my language, it was quite damning.
Mhm.
And because it appears that she agrees to commit perjury. Really, I don't. Miss Jeanette probably has had a chance to read it, and I think I shared that with Coley McCraney's son. It's I can make, it's not illegal for me to give it to you because I got it before it was sealed, if it was sealed. But she maintained this story 8 years ago,
Yeah.
and I really didn't say anything. I just pointed the camera, and I put the video up on Medium, is where we first published stuff, and I was then sued by several of these police officers.
Mhm.
You were sued?
I was, yeah. And
Wow.
I actually never said anything or wrote anything. It was the half sister, the victim's half sister, that was telling the story. But before I wrote that article, I will say I called a Houston County deputy that was there when she was interviewed by Marlos Walker. His name is Donovan Arias, probably not pronouncing it right. And I also called the head of the cold case division that I knew for the Attorney General, Sean Smith, and he confirmed to me that that was indeed what was said. And I got to listen to a recording of her saying all this. So I knew it was true. And they said it was all not true, So, of course, 7 years later, this lady, it is true. She did say that.
So is she saying the same thing? And did she testify? I mean,
Well, Miss
Well,
McCraney was
actually,
there. I wasn't there. She would be better to, she
she
recanted.
recanted
Sorry.
her story.
she recanted it?
She recanted. We had her at a hearing last year. Last year, and she came in. And she started screaming pretty much that she lied. She lied. So our attorney put up the video of her being interviewed by Michael Bryan, the son-in-law, and in that video, she's stating the facts that she had been telling like John and everybody else. But she had put on the video that if she was ever put into court, that she would commit perjury, and that's exactly what she did. She went against the video. She said what she was going to do. So she came in, sunglasses on, just all irate, just basically saying what she wasn't going to do. And even after the video was played, the attorney asked, was that her? And she said, I don't recall, pretty much. Like, she didn't agree to it. But now she's back on the bandwagon again, telling how they beat her and everything else. Like, she wants the story out, but it's $2 too late,
So now she wants the story out.
Well,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, John.
I would encourage you. I'm trying to figure out how to share this.
Just do share at the bottom. If you said presentation,
right. There's a transcript of.
Just email it to me. Here's my email. And I can put it up. Hold on a second.
Okay, there is a transcript from that body cam video, and Miss McCraney is correct that.
Okay, here's my email. Right. Look at that private chat. My email right there.
Okay. I'm doing it right now, so just give me 2 seconds.
Okay. Okay, somebody said, Casey just says that she said they put 2 dead rats in her mailbox and beat her.
Okay, it's on the way to you.
Okay, let me pull it up.
What Miss McCraney said is
that's what she's saying now, that recently happened, that she had 2 rats or something like that put in her mailbox. So that's pretty much what she's saying now.
She was beaten with a baseball bat, and I think it broke her collarbone and shoulder, is what she alleged. But I will tell you that. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
She also had text messages on her phone when this originally was told, where these officers were
threatening her. And one of the officers, who's now deceased, said he's going to kill both of us if you don't shut up. I thought that was really important because, cops don't threaten to kill each other. And
Yeah.
so this lady, Rena Crum, if you read that transcript that I just sent you, it's very disturbing because she really is not denying her story. I don't know if she's credible or not, but I do know it was newsworthy. It's just unheard of that a police officer of any sort comes forward and says another police officer murdered somebody. I just thought that was just crazy. But if you read that transcript, one of the defense attorneys seems to have kind of threatened her, and that kind of set her off in a direction. He said he had a recording of her and he would subpoena her and drag her into court. And I think, just my personal opinion, when a witness is scared, you need to try to accommodate that witness. And even if you don't understand it, you need to listen to what that witness is saying and try to help find a solution. Because I think this woman is or was scared for her life, for her family. And attorneys aren't trained as investigators, so I get that. So they're trained to be lawyers and not. But when you have a scared witness, you better listen to what they're saying, even if you don't understand it.
Well, I have to step there. They didn't threaten her.
Well, that's what she said. That's what she said in the body cam video.
Hello?
It's in the transcript.
Okay. Like the back and forth is what the issue is. When you're dealing with a man's life on the line, either you're in or you're out. And that's the problem that we have with her. Either I understand that you're scared, but
yeah, she is scared.
She also stated in one of her videos that she didn't care if an innocent black man went to jail over this because her family was more important. So, I mean, it's an either or. Either you want to help us or you don't, because the protection is there. I mean, all we needed was for you just to step up and do the right thing. That's it. And, so I hate that she's scared. I don't wish that on nobody. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in fear. I would not want to live in fear. But if you're out at the courthouse the other day and you're on dock you and you're trying to tell your story, where's that fear at then? It's just, you should still be afraid if you're that terrified. You shouldn't be out at a small rally telling your story still if you're so afraid at the same courthouse surrounded by everyone. So I understand that she's scared, and I understand that she said they threatened her family. I get that. I get it. But at the same time, why would you be afraid on Monday, but you're not afraid on Tuesday to jump in front of everybody? So it's either or situation. That's my thing, because I would have loved just to been able to talk to her and you, just to see.
You can talk to me anytime, Ms. McCraney. Your stepson has reached out to me, and I've talked to him, and I've always been an open book. I work as a photographer and do documentary film, and we've been working on a film for 8 years on this project and continue to follow it. And it's a tragedy. And now it's a tragedy for the McCraney family. So it's just growing.
And all of it ties back to the corruption and everything else and the scare tactics. That's what it all boils down to.
Well, they sued me, and ultimately the case was dismissed, but they misrepresented all the local media.
I'm saying, what grounds do they have to sue you when it's not you that actually did the talking? So I don't understand that.
Well, ultimately that's what was decided. But the way the system works in South Alabama is you have, first of all, this region, if you go to Harvard Center for Government Ethics, it's ranked one of the most corrupt judicial systems in the nation. So, when I got sued, if you back up a bit, I had a federal lawsuit. I was living in Seattle, Washington. I had a federal lawsuit filed against these officers. And this is public knowledge. They were threatening. We had cattle killed on our farm, drugs planted. This sounds crazy to people that aren't from here. But if you're from here, like Miss Jeanette and me, yeah, somebody or it's real. And the local media really is sort of a sounding, they echo what the prosecutor's office and the police department tell them, is my personal opinion. I've witnessed it case after case after case. So the truth, or an objective where you show both sides, it doesn't really happen. They prey on people with this information. But in my case, I filed bankruptcy to protect myself from the legal threats. I didn't have a problem paying my bills, but it made these cases be thrown before a federal judge in federal court where they had to follow the rules. And it was, immediately dismissed. But that tells you they were willing to go to that length to cover this Rena Crum thing up. And then here we are, 7 years? I think 7 years later, we find out that was true. She did say that.
Yeah.
I've always, tried to be unbiased because I just take pictures. I do photography and some film and, work as an artist. So I'm just observing, really. But I'm sympathetic to this case because I'm aware of things that were not allowed in the court.
Okay.
Yes.
One other thing I just thought about, they said that the Harlot, whatever how to say it, Harlot, she had blonde hair in her hand.
That's correct.
So the person, I guess she must have been fighting that individual, and she grabbed that person's hair. And the judge did not allow that into the courtroom as evidence.
Well, I've never seen a photo of that.
They objected it.
They objected.
Brought up.
Yeah.
You say you never seen the
I've never seen the photo of that. I've seen photos of the corpses in the trunk, and I know that in my opinion there was a bullet removed and replaced with a
bullet on one of her legs.
And we found that out by one of the, I took photographs of the crime scene photos that this gentleman let me look at. So I gave that information to Andrew Scarborough, one of the attorneys, years ago. And he had contacted me. I had an exhibit on this, these murders. And he had asked to put it on hold because he had a client, Coley McCraney, that had been arrested and charged with it. So we honored that. I still honored that request. I pulled a trailer. But in the movie trailer, we had showed that bullet. We showed that picture. I can share it with you if you'd like to your email.
Yes, please do.
And I had several people that are forensic image analysts look at it, and they thought it was a bullet too. The problem is, I don't know this, but I don't think that was ever turned over to the defense during the discovery process. But you're dealing with probably close to 200,000 files on these murders. So, a conspiracy theory can be true, but I think when there are no answers for this long, you have this kind of void in the community where people start, their worst fears come to light. And so it's like Mr. McCraney was saying, it's so hard to know what's true. And you hear this and you hear that all these different years. And it's really because they haven't solved the case.
Exactly.
But I have a real issue with, I think everything should be open and transparent.
Yeah, you should.
The cops that were there back then aren't there now. So as far
Where
as I know,
are they?
the police chief, they're either retired or somewhere else.
Yep.
I think that's right.
That's correct. I mean, a lot of people moved from that police force. Once my husband got arrested, it was like an empty nest. People started going different directions,
So does the family think that the justice has been done? Or, what is
their mindset? I really can't speak for them, but from just looking at them, it's like they're just happy somebody is paying, because like the dad, Mr. Beasley said, he knows Coley didn't do this, so it's almost like they're just happy somebody is arrested for. It's like they needed some type of peace, but I can't really speak for them, but that's what it seemed like to me, because it just didn't seem like in the courtroom, me being there for the verdict and everything,
Mhm.
if you've been waiting for this for 20-something years, it just didn't seem. I don't think they believe it. I don't. You can say all you want. You can say you believe it, but there's some pieces still voided. They don't believe it.
One of the things I did see in the press conference when the DA guy was talking, he was saying all this stuff that's happening on social media, don't believe it and stuff. I'm like, if you just got a verdict, right? Why are you concerned of what's going on in social media? Why are you trying to dispel what is being said on social media?
Oh, that's bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're talking about Attorney General Steve Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the problem he has. Steve Marshall took an oath, just like the district attorney.
Mhm.
And he, first and foremost, is to search for the truth of the matter relentlessly. Okay. This isn't like winning ball games, win at all costs. And that's what this turned into. All
Yeah.
they had was DNA. That's all they had.
That's it.
The former prosecutor on the case, David Emery, I called him after he said something in court one day that I knew was false. It pertained to a witness. It's in the court record. The witness's name is Victor Glass. And this gentleman lives in Dale County. I had interviewed him and talked to him. And the only reason I would say his name is because it's in the court record. It's public. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was David Harrison that filed a motion with the state for all information pertaining to this witness. This witness had something to say that was very fascinating. And David Emery said, we have no knowledge of name connected to this case or any case. And I called him and said, look, I'm not trying to cause you problems, but I know this is false. Maybe you didn't get this information, but I know there is a witness and this is what he said. And I can give you a copy of the document and I can tell you where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want it. And he told me that all they had was a DNA and they thought this was the guy. Well, I just don't think that the DNA
that doesn't prove he actually did commit a murder.
And especially since Dr. Wagner said that there's no, in fairness to Wagner, he said it could be either way. He said he had seen autopsies where there was no sign of rape. But you have to take a guy. I'm just going to act like you're not here, Miss Jeanette. I'm not going to say anything disrespectful. But when I looked at this case, I had to be totally, brutally neutral and objective. And you have to say, does Coley McCraney have anything in his history or after this of violence? And no one I talked to, and I talked to over 100 people on this case, no one knew any incident of that. So the other thing that's really interesting about this case is you're telling me that Mr. McCraney got in his car or got in their car and drove at whatever time, 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock, whenever it was. And he wiped down the car and the trunk with prints and every piece of all the empty shell casings, which were, I think, 13. And then you're telling me, oh, by the way, I'll just walk home. No.
Yeah.
Criminals, let me tell you something. I can tell you this. Criminals don't wipe down shell casings. Someone with forensic knowledge or a police background wipe down shell casings. And it is hard to get a print off of brass, but you certainly would have some in a partial and smudged. So there's either an A or B. The person lifting the prints purposely didn't do it. I don't believe that. Or they weren't there, and that means they were wiped down. So if Coley McCraney was smart enough to wipe down the car, wipe down the shell casings, get rid of all forensic evidence, you really think he's going to walk? That doesn't add up.
Exactly.
And I'm just speaking bluntly, Miss Jeanette. You interrupt me if I don't in any way want to offend you and your family with what you've been through.
No, you're speaking facts because the way they're saying he would have walked home, somebody would have saw him. Somebody would have saw him walking to the house. Somebody would have saw something. He wouldn't have had time in between there, where the car was, and home. What did you wipe it down with? Why did we never find anything that it was wiped down with? I mean, what did he use? It's just the strangest story ever. that they've concocted.
A lot of things don't add up. But technically, I think you could, if you're in all fairness to the Ozark Police Department, I think you could say it's technically possible because there's no evidence that I'm aware of that shows, and this is in no way assuming he's guilty, Miss Jeanette, but there's no evidence that I'm aware of that can clear him exculpatory. It's all like, I don't know how to describe this to you. One of the defense attorneys, for example, made a big deal out of saying the police officer did this. I'm not going to say his name. He even said in the news media and all that, well, everybody knows this police officer did it. Well, let me tell you something. I mean, I'm kind of a redneck white guy, so I'm going to speak bluntly. And I'm certainly not racist. But if a racist white cop is having a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old girl, and he rolls up and sees a black man having sex with her, let me tell you something. You would have known about Coley McCraney years ago because he would have leaked that name out, and this would all he would have gotten the death penalty a long time ago. So the common sense argument against this defense attorney, what he was saying he knew to be true, didn't even make any sense. It didn't make common sense. So I don't know who killed him, but I sure as heck don't think it's Coley McCraney. I just can't. I'm not there.
He's got no criminal history, nothing. And the AG, the Attorney General, made the comment that he thought Coley did it, which he had a lot of thoughts because he had a 5-year-old kid at home and he couldn't live with the fact of his 5-year-old kid realizing that he had raped someone. It didn't make sense. A lot of the stuff that he was saying just did not make sense. That's no reason to kill somebody. That's also a reason for you to keep not wanting to do something too wrong when you're raising a 5-year-old son. Why would you kill 2 people and then go home and raise your 5-year-old kid? It don't make sense. It doesn't add up. The
strangest thing, in Miss Jeanette, I think you would maybe agree with this. If you are I think there are 15 witnesses in a small space of time, let's say an hour and a half, that were at this convenience store and they saw the car. It's not just the newspaper driver, but there's several other witnesses that saw things there. Yeah. Now, just like if you saw someone that looked like me with a big jacked up truck wheel into the convenience store, you would see it. You would see it in somebody driving a big Cadillac. This is back in the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. So no one saw this Cadillac at that time. That's a problem. I don't know what it means, but I kind of feel like that helps Coley McCraney, or did. And I'll just say it. I think when his lawyer comes out and calls him a player and places him in the car, that's like shooting him in the head with a shotgun. That was one of the most horrible moves a lawyer could ever make.
Well, to me, you say that, but however, I think it's a culture thing. I really do. For the simple fact, he was considered the player. I mean, hey, there's no harm in that. He was a 20-something-year-old guy. Not married. Sure, but living the life. So
I think they were looking for a way to convict him. Is why I say that. And I think, unfortunately, one of the defense attorneys probably didn't help.
When you said one of the defense
personal opinion, I'm not a lawyer, so
no, I'm saying what do you mean by you? You didn't think he fought hard enough for him, or?
I don't know. I just know that
I feel like our attorneys did excellent. Even though I was not in there, I had like play-by-play because I had so many family members and friends in the courtroom. It was play-by-play. And I mean, of different ages, different races, whatever was in that courtroom. The attorneys, they fought to the fact that when Steve Marshall would come down to our floor to use the restroom, if we were standing in that hall, you could see it on his face. Like, this don't look like it's going my way, So I feel like they did a heck of a job. But when you
I've used one of them. I mean, I personally have used one for business reasons, Andrew Scarborough, and he's a fantastic lawyer.
I couldn't hear you.
I've used Andrew Scarborough for business law stuff. You know, I think he's a superb lawyer and very ethical.
Oh yeah,
But
they are.
here's my point. My point would be, when you go on the news camera and you say, we're going to hire forensic experts, we're going to hire a crime scene reconstruction person, an expert, and we're going to hire a DNA expert. If you're on video with the local news saying that to the community, my question was, where were these people?
Mm. Mm.
And that may have been a bad move. That's not Mr. McCraney's fault.
So that means that they didn't have them there?
Coley McCraney should have had those experts.
We didn't have them, but the state put on their people. And
yeah, but
every single one of those people, the forensics, DNA, whoever they brought up there, out of all those people, the question was asked, all these degrees that you have, everything that you've came up here and said, does any of that implement Coley McCraney as a rapist or a murderer? And every single one of those people said, no, it does not. So
but where were Mr. McCraney's experts? Where were the experts that hired on his side? That's what I want to know. Because I tell you, there was two things I learned. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I was just saying they proved their point. Every expert said no. You know.
Well, no, you have to. The defense
to me
of an expert. Just because the lawyer says it doesn't make it true. Right. You remember the testimony by a former ABI investigator, Barry Tucker, where he talked about the mud and the blowback and the blood?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Barry Tucker is an investigator for the ABI, and now he works for Internal Affairs in Houston County. Barry Tucker is not a forensic scientist. I know Barry Tucker. And so immediately the forensic scientist expert that would be hired for Coley McCraney could have commented on that and added an authoritative voice. A lawyer can't. They didn't challenge that. I don't know if that's true or not. And because why it matters is because they've alluded in court that the actual crime scene was somewhere else, and that's real important because you have a witness that wasn't allowed to testify that heard gunshots on Herring Street. But you have to have those experts on that defense team to push back against what those experts say. You can't just say, well, that doesn't mean he did it, right? You need a really hard, like a former FBI, a retired FBI person, a homicide detective, someone that knows what to ask. That's the type person they should have hired as an investigator. They should have had a DNA expert. Because the DNA expert would have said, well, okay, in all the samples of the fabric of the car, we're going to do touch DNA tests. And maybe someone else was DNA in there. They should have done an environmental DNA test of the jeans where the jeans were wet and find out where that body of water was. But this defense team, as far as I know, they promised to the television stations they were going to hire these people for Mr. McCraney, but I never heard them or saw them in the court, and I don't know why. And that, I think, harmed Mr. McCraney.
What it boils down to, no matter who was there, because I don't do the shoulda, coulda, woulda. So I'm sorry. What it boils down to is, and I understand your opinion. I really do. I value everything.
And I don't mean any disrespect, Ms. Jeanette. None at all.
But at the same time, it boiled down to, we weren't just fighting the victims' families. We're fighting a corrupt system as well. We're fighting people that's going on political races. You got an AG that's trying to be governor. You got a judge that's trying to be, the appeals court judge. At the same time, then he's rolling his eyes the whole time while he's in court, from like he always does. The judge, he's telling that it's not going to take long. So you're rushing a case. And then you got the state who didn't even present any evidence, but the jury is watching the head of the house. So if you're the head of the house and the jury's sitting here watching everything you're doing, the way you're reacting, of course they're going to feed off of that, So even though our side didn't pull in whomever you're saying, at the same time, the state didn't have any evidence against him. And we weren't even disputing the DNA. We weren't fighting that DNA. If they thought we were going in there to fight it, they were wrong. So that's just the sad part of it. They convicted him.
The DNA is, can I just interject something there?
Ahead,
if you have the clothing of the girls, which they do, okay,
He had the shirt,
technology.
didn't have the pants.
Hold on a sec, Jeanette. Let him finish off. I want to hear what he has to say.
They did have the pants because if you remember in the testimony, they talked about the mud being on the outside and the inside of JB Beasley's pants.
Yeah, but they didn't present them into exhibits. They weren't there.
But they have them. They have possession of them. And what you want to do with the DNA is there's like all kind of different technology. One of them is called microvac. It's like a little asthma inhaler with a vacuum. You can suck the clothing with a saline solution and get DNA from anybody that girl touched or had contact with from when she put on those clothes. And so you might get some of the DNA profiles of some of these suspects that Mr. Beasley's talking about that they excluded. And so you can explain why Mr. McCraney's DNA would be on the girl, but if you get somebody that she didn't know at all that was a previous suspect, then bingo, that's your number one suspect. And that's why you want a DNA expert. You do not want a lawyer standing up there trying to talk about something they don't know anything about except what they've read. You need a forensic scientist and a DNA expert, and you need to do those tests, and they didn't do them. That's where I do agree with Attorney General Marshall. They had every opportunity to do the test, and for whatever reason, they didn't do it. And that's not fair to Coley McCraney.
Do you think it could have been financial reason why they didn't get the expert?
I don't know the answer to that. I wasn't privy to that. But I don't know if he was an indigent. I don't know if he was an indigent case. If he was, the state provides funding for that. If it was a pro bono or private type of deal, then, it may have been up to whoever's providing the money. I don't know. Was he an indigent? Was he declared indigent defense, Miss Jeanette? Do you know?
I can't hear you. What was that?
Was he declared an indigent defender in the Alabama courts?
Our attorneys are taken care of. I'm just gonna say it like that. Our attorneys are taking
See,
care
the problem is,
but hold on, because I'm gonna go back to those pants because I got to get this part out. I apologize. Okay, while we were there, the AG mentioned the pants, but that was also one of the questions that the jury asked about. Where are the jeans? Even though yes, they may have them, they had them. Why were they not part of the exhibit for the jury? That was my question, because they did not have them. The
defense had the opportunity to test them, and they could have probably determined where that came from. Even if they couldn't say precisely, they could have narrowed it down to several locations. And that would have been really helpful for the defense.
Well, like I said, it all boiled down to DNA, no matter what, because you should have had more. They should have had more.
Well,
we were not fighting the DNA.
If you're the defense, you still have to do the work. And Coley McCraney can't do it because he's incarcerated. So they should have done what they said they were going to do, is hire these experts. And they didn't do that.
Again, we're proud. We're happy with the way they handled everything.
So Jeanette, did they not hire experts?
No, because the state had already pulled them. So no.
No, I'm saying they didn't get their own expert?
No.
That's catastrophic for Mr. McCraney. That's very sad.
So, as far as the appeal, what can happen? I mean, do you think it's going to be a different outcome since everything's so corrupt, as you guys say, that county, that area?
Whereas some people think of the physical mind, we think of the spiritual mind. So we already know that it's working out. It's going to work out. There's some things that came up that are going to be brought up in another hearing that I can't discuss right now. There's a lot of stuff that was just, played around, misconduct on both sides. So, as far as the jury and the judge. So it's some things that's eventually going to come out. So I just can't speak on those things right now, though. But we're trying to get a new trial. And if that's denied, then we'll go for the appeal process. So,
and what are the bases? I know one of the bases for the new trials because the jury was looking at social media when they weren't supposed to, right? That's one of the things, right?
Well, I can't speak on it
okay.
Right now. But that, like I said, some misconduct with the jury as well as the way the judge handled some stuff, you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Sorry, that's my dog barking.
What kind of dog is it?
He's a little blue heeler, or she is.
I love dogs. But
I can comment on that a minute if you want my input on that.
yes, I would like to hear your input.
I'm being respectful of the court. Okay, so I'm not in any way implying that Judge Fillmore is corrupt, but he did make a ruling that I think was very harmful to Mr. McCraney. And the way, as I understand from David Harrison, how he kind of put all his eggs in this Rena Crumb basket. And the judge used that when she recanted to not allow any evidence of these, really, which are witness statements that are sworn statements to the police officers of Ozark and to investigators for the Alabama Bureau of Investigations. And he kind of gave a blanket ruling that excluded that. And he has the discretion to do that.
yes.
If, you know, and I'm not trying to be Monday morning quarterback. We all can look back at what we did yesterday and see ways to do better. So, but in Mr. McCraney's case, his defense was all about Rena Crumb, and that he used
No. Rena Crumb was never our main goal. She was never our goal. That's just what they thought. We were never going to use her in the first place.
Okay. Well, the judge used that as an excuse to give this ruling that excluded all these witnesses. And I'll just give you one example. There's a very credible witness that signed a sworn statement that said they saw a white Ford truck and got a partial plate number with a Houston County plate. Now, I gave this to Andrew Scarborough several years ago. So what you're now saying is you can identify every Ford truck owner that has a Houston County plate in the motor vehicle records and the probate office with the titles. And so that's real important because Coley McCraney didn't have a white Ford truck. He had no friends. He didn't have any friends that had a Ford truck that was white with Houston County plates. So who was that person? And that truck was exactly where the car was with the corpses in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. And just like the statement by the clerk of the convenience store, you remember where they, I can't remember her name right. Mary Campbell, I think was her name.
From the store clerk?
Right. And so she locked the door of this store at 11 p.m. But she signed a sworn statement that these girls at about 10:50 showed up at that store and got change. Okay. If you know the driving distance from Headland, Alabama to that store, that means they drove straight there. Mm-hmm. She gave the change and then the girls went and used the phone. And when she left, the girls weren't there. Mm-hmm. That means they left the store and later came back to the store.
That's
now,
right.
There was a second interview with that witness by the Alabama Bureau of Investigations. And in that statement, guess what she saw? A police car come into that parking lot. So when that witness was interviewed on the stand, I don't know if the defense didn't have that information or they didn't know what to ask, but that would have been valuable. And then you have also a very credible witness signed a sworn statement. They saw the girls come up to the store and a white male wearing, khaki pressed pants, very sharp dress, very clean cut, get out of the car. Now ask yourself, where did that guy go? Where did he go to? You have to go somewhere.
Well, there's a lot of guys missing.
None of this came into the case. And I think it would have really helped Coley McCraney's case. There's just a lot of unanswered questions.
Well, a lot of things that were asked, the judge wouldn't let in. He wouldn't let a lot of stuff in.
That's right. That was because of Rena Crumb. That's the excuse he used.
A lot of things. Anything that you said outside of Coley McCraney pretty much could not be admitted in. He didn't want to hear that it was a possibility of somebody else seeing. He didn't want to hear that what happened to the young man that the mother saw when they came to the nursing home. He didn't want to hear like a lot of things. He just didn't. He shut it down on every angle. But if the AG's office asked, it was okay. I mean, everything was okay. But our side, he shut down at every single angle.
Can I ask who is Rena Crum and what role does she play in this?
She was that officer that came forward, the reserve officer, and claimed.
Oh, the one that used. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I just think all this needs to be on the table. That needs to be transparent, and the public needs to know it. There doesn't need to be any of this. Alabama has a system that's very weird, and it makes it almost impossible to get the transcripts from the trial. You have to go through something called aliquot, and you have to pay, just enormous amounts of money. So if you're a journalist or investigative reporter, or there's a guy writing a book, for example, that's a professor out at USC, I think. It's so very hard to get the information.
Yeah, I tried to sign up, and they were asking for you to even look at it. It was like $9.99, and I'm like, I didn't even get any information from the beginning for me to
be thousands. This case will cost thousands and thousands of dollars to get a copy.
Wow.
So the average person that wants to look at it, or the average journalist or whatnot, can't. It's just too prohibitive, cost prohibitive.
Yeah, because I got some things, but it was like this stuff is because I got a couple of the motions that was out there, and then I got some things from Miss Jeanette. But
yeah.
So, but from what my understanding, the community is most people saying that he didn't do it.
That's correct.
Because everybody that I've spoken to, everyone that I've, tried to get some, they said he didn't do it. They said he didn't do it.
That's right. It's not in his character. Even back then, it's not his character. He couldn't hurt anyone, And I know him better. I always say I know you better than you know yourself. He couldn't hurt anyone.
Marquita just asked, question is, was the girls killed when it was raining? Was it raining?
It had rained that day. It had rained during that day, but no, they're not saying that happened when it was raining, but nobody knows. All they know is it was hot, right, John? It was hot.
Yeah, well, the car, unfortunately, this is kind of, I'll try to say this tactfully, but just try to picture this. The girls were in the trunk of a car, and there was sunlight hitting the trunk of the car in a hot Alabama summer. And, the temperature was, this is why they cannot determine a time of death. They were in there for 6-7 hours in the sunlight.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine how bad that was.
So they didn't find it till the next day, which was on August the 1st?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
It's just really hard to believe. There's so many twists and turns. But these girls, I'll tell you, these girls came to Ozark. I've interviewed several people through the years that say these girls had came there before to these parties.
And so they were only 16 at the time. They just turned, one of them turned 17.
Well, one was 17, and JB had turned 17 I think
July 31st, because that was her birthday. I did check that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just really, where were those girls when they left that convenience store that night before they came back to that convenience store? And where's the white dude that had the khaki pants that got out of the car from them?
But wasn't JB wasn't living with her mother at that time, right? She was already right. Okay. So then the court ordered that she had a curfew. So why didn't she not? Because she was way beyond her curfew.
Yeah,
that's correct.
She lived with a doctor and his wife who I think had.
Yeah, was it a dance teacher or something like that?
Yes,
okay.
That's who she was staying with at the time.
Okay. But because I was looking at the court order, she had a specific curfew that she had to be in. So why was she out then?
Yes. Well, the dance teacher, from what I'm understanding, is saying that she wasn't in town that night. She was in Panama City.
Oh.
So the dance teacher was home when all this happened.
Yeah.
So.
And JB was spending the night with Tracy.
Yeah.
And Tracy's mother said no, they had to come back home.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the curfew was 11:30 or something.
For the weekend.
They were supposed to be back.
Yeah.
But she called after her curfew, to get permission to stay out a little longer. After she told them she was lost, then she said she needed to stay out a little longer to meet up with someone else. But the mom said she only gave her a few minutes to meet with that person. But the mom said she took some medicine to go to sleep because she was tired, because she had worked a double shift. So she went on to sleep and didn't find her until that morning. And didn't find out that they weren't there until that next morning when she woke up.
The thing that got me was the execution style of killing. They shot her one time and a bullet in the head, both of them.
Yeah.
One bullet.
Yes, that's correct. And mind you, my husband didn't have a gun. That was one of the questions that was asked at court. No gun. So it's just.
And they did no forensics on the bullet, the casing, or none of that.
The bullet was lost. The bullet on the side was lost.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know that they've ever admitted that's a bullet, but I mean, you can look at the photo and make your own decision.
Oh, did you send them to me? Did you send it?
I will. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I was going to show it, so okay.
I mean, the whole thing is just outrageous.
But I'm going to go back to tell you just one thing that has to happen for Mr. McCraney to get a fair chance. You have to have a forensic scientist that's an expert analyze this stuff, not a lawyer. You have to have a crime scene reconstruction person, and you need like a retired FBI agent or a big city retired homicide cop that knows the procedures and the questions and where the evidence would be if there is any. That's going to be someone that can push back against the prosecution with authority and experience. You cannot have a bow tie wearing lawyer that talks smoothly just say, well, that doesn't prove he killed him. That doesn't cut it in South Alabama. And it's very unfortunate. He may mean well, and I think he's probably got a big heart, and he's probably worked hard and tackled this best he could. But you've got to have those experts that work for Coley McCraney's side. There's just no way around it, or he's not going to have a chance.
Like I said, and I'll say this 100 times, they did us no disservice. I really, I don't want to bash my attorneys because they did everything I feel like they could. Yeah, we could have had some extra people there, but at the same time, that jury had their mind made up, So, I mean, I get what you're saying 100%, but at the same time, I think they're like good guys. We're satisfied with the way they handled everything,
But can I ask you
guys? He lost.
Ma'am.
It's like a game. You got to have a coach that wins. These guys lost, so you got to have a winner.
And I understand that, but at the same time, it's not about bashing the attorneys. This is my husband's life, and it's our next steps and what went wrong. Because I'm looking at the fact we're fighting the whole system here. I'm not fighting my attorneys. We're fighting the fact that my husband just got convicted on DNA alone. I'm not here to go over what you think the attorneys did wrong. I understand that. I appreciate everything you're saying. But at the same time, when the help was needed, where was everybody that had all this information that could have helped my attorneys? So that's what I'm looking at. Because now my husband is sitting in jail for a crime he did not commit off of semen alone. And that's a big deal, especially when some of our people, my African-American people, are thinking this is racial motivated. Because who convicts a black man off of semen alone after he admits to sleeping with a young white female? So that's what it boils down to. At the same time, I understand it's some disturbance there between you and him, because it's very noticeable.
Oh, no, there's no disturbance. Like I said, I think they have big hearts. I've used Andrew Scarborough financially.
So, but I mean, just whatever. I can only speak for the people that has been involved the whole 4 years. And like I said, I understand we lost. I get that. But you also had to be there to see what was going on. And it was a disservice. It was a big, it
But
was
Jeanette,
something going on there.
But
John,
there's no disturbance with me and the attorneys. You need experts, that forensic scientists that can push back against what the state expert said. And you did not have that. Mr. McCraney was not given that opportunity, and I think that's unfair to him. I'm not blaming it on anybody, and certainly not you, Miss Jeanette. But I think, I've seen a few of these trials and these cases, and they had experts. And I'll just tell you, Lanier Beasley asked me one day. He said, "Have you ever had any investigator come see you from the defense?" I said, "No, no one's. I never have." And he said, "Me either. Isn't that really weird?" I said, "No, it's unheard of." And
yeah, why did they do that, Jeanette?
I'm sorry. He's going in. What did you say, Mr. John?
Well, I just think Mr. Coley deserves. I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. Okay, I'm neutral.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I do think, and my heart goes out to you. I say that with respect. But I do think Mr. McCraney deserves his own forensic expert. He needs a serious investigator that has a lot of experience, retired homicide type guy, preferably FBI, that is above reproach. And you need a crime scene reconstruction person, because these are the only people that can explain to a jury how it's possible. A lawyer can't do that because they don't have the training, experience, or skills.
Mm-hmm.
This is my opinion from watching other cases,
Oh, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. I really do.
I just think he deserves that. And,
Yes.
someone's up to bat, they miss the ball, you move on to the next batter.
Yeah.
I think there are people that would help Coley McCraney in the community, in the law enforcement community. I really do. I know a lot of law enforcement officers, and they've said, "I just don't think that guy did it."
Well, yeah, they're
That's
saying
kind
that.
of unheard of, really,
But again, what did they convict him on? DNA alone.
DNA.
The DNA. That's what it boils down to. You convicted this man. My husband was doomed from the start. From the start. It could have been Johnny Cochran. DNA. Politics. Race. He was doomed from the start.
Well, I think Johnny Cochran would have got experts.
You darn right he would. He would have got world-class experts.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to mess with y'all.
No.
Well, it's real important because you also have the opportunity to do a lot more DNA testing with the fabric of the clothing. And that's one of the things that Lanier Beasley, in that discussion, since you have this database of all these people they excluded that were suspects, you have something to compare it to. And that's a real opportunity that was missed. I know if the state of Alabama had funded his defense, he would have had these experts. They're available for capital murder cases.
Well, what happens if the judge just don't allow it? What can you do?
The judge cannot not allow an expert. That's not what he just didn't allow were witness statements, because this police officer did it theory. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I don't know enough about the law, but I think it's within his discretion to make that ruling, and I'm sure that will be appealed. And that's what excluded all these witnesses. But what we're talking about are experts in crime scene reconstruction, DNA, forensic science, and a homicide investigator that works on behalf of Coley McCraney. And I don't know that he got, as far as I know, he didn't get that. And that's really unfortunate. It's not fair, in just my opinion.
So what's next, guys? What's next? What is next? What is the
next step?
That's why we came into this infamous Sylvia channel, is to get this ball rolling, to get what's next?
Preparing for the trial, a new trial. pulling out all we can, you know. And I wish we would have had all this extra help and the people that's chiming in, you know. I wish we would have had it then. I mean, we've been going through this for 4 years. Anybody that want to help, I wish somebody would have came to me and said, hey, we can help you with this. I haven't heard from anybody. I've been in this by myself for 4 years, you know. So I mean, if anybody willing to help them. Don't complain, help them. We need it. Like I said, for 4 years I've been in this battle by myself. I don't, you know, we need the help. If you know something that can really help, let them know what can help. You know,
Well,
so
John just gave you some examples, experts,
yeah.
forensics expert. What else did you say, John?
He needs, well, David Harrison said this to one of the television stations, but he was right. And I guess they didn't do it, but you need a crime scene reconstruction expert, you need a DNA expert, and you need a forensic scientist. And you also need some investigators, preferably retired FBI people that have worked a lot of homicides.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can go to a big city, Mobile, Montgomery, Atlanta, and get a retired homicide guy, a guy that's worked, or guy or gal. It can be, you know, just he's the woman that's worked hundreds of murders. So they know all the questions to ask, and they know what to expect, and they know the procedures, and they know the protocols. And they also can go to these cops and say, did you do this? Did you do that? Why didn't you do this? Where is your booklet that you learned and signed off that you were going to follow all this at a crime scene? All of those things. When you look at those pictures and you see all those guys standing around the car with no gloves or booties on, that's a big problem. But when a lawyer says that, that doesn't really mean anything. But when someone that has a PhD in forensic science says that, and you have some 65, 75-year-old homicide detective say that's crazy. I've worked 355 murders in Atlanta and I've never seen that. That means something to a jury. That can overcome the politics or the pressure, because you don't know. And that's what constitutes reasonable doubt.
John, didn't
that's just what I think.
Some of the evidence, I'm going to ask you, some of the evidence have been destroyed already. You know, like the car. I mean, all these other things, they're not preserved. So what happens now?
They have samples of, my understanding is they have samples of the upholstery. But most importantly, they have the clothing of the girls. So
they still have the clothing?
Yeah, right. In let's take J.B. Beasley's case, that particular victim. We know what time that afternoon that she went home and took a shower and changed clothes. And we know where she went. She went to a Hooters restaurant in Dothan, Alabama, and had a dinner. We know who she was with. We know who she rode back in the car with. She then left and went to Tracy Hollett's. So we know the people she encountered there. And we know they attempted to go to a party out near Haleburg, and they couldn't find it, and turned around and came back and used a payphone in Headland, and there were 4 or 5 classmates and people there. One gentleman hugged her. Okay. They then left and went somewhere else in Ozark. So all of those people that hugged JB or touched JB or interacted with her, you can probably have a reasonable chance of lifting that touch DNA from her clothing, even though it's 20-something years later. Okay. So you may obviously Coley McCraney's will be there, but you may have 4 or 5 other people that aren't family members or friends. You may have the killer's DNA on there. You don't know till you test it. So there's no downside for the defense to do the touch DNA testing. That's just crazy not to do it, because the police have this database of all these people that they've excluded through the years to measure it against. You may find that one of their other suspects' DNA is on that girl. And if a jury hears that, there's no way in heck they're going to convict McCraney, in my opinion, because you don't know. That's the thing about this case, that it doesn't seem to be a way for anyone to actually know who killed them. Environmental DNA, you can take the pants that were wet from these girls, and you can identify what bodies of water it's not. God forbid you find out it was tap water. Then you've got a whole nother lead to go down. They didn't do any of this. None. And it doesn't appear the police department did it either. But now they're not motivated probably to They think they've got their guy. So they're not, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, or I'm not saying they're corrupt. The chief actually is a very credible guy. But you've got to do the homework on this test because you might find something. And if you've got, take the phone records. Here's another avenue. Go through every single phone call these girls made to people leading up to their deaths. That's a database of people.
But didn't they
That's
use just the payphone? The payphone is what they use, right?
Well, she had a cell
But she
phone,
had
but the
a
battery
phone
wasn't
as well,
working
but I
that.
don't know if it had minutes on it. But she did have a cell phone in the vehicle, from what I'm understanding.
We came up with the payphone records after 20 years, so it's researchable. I was able to get copies of them. And it's very interesting because, like in one case, they used the payphone, and just maybe it seems like it's 42 or 51 seconds after she used that payphone for that number, another number was called, a pager number. Who was that?
Can't hear.
They didn't try to track that down. And the FBI certainly can track that down. They didn't do that. These people can tell you whatever they want, but they don't know that Coley McCraney killed these girls. You bring anybody on your show, I'll go through the evidence with them. I can't say he did or didn't, but I can damn sure say no one can say he did with evidence. I don't care what Steve Marshall says. I don't believe that. All they've got is a DNA. What Jeanette McCraney says is dead on the money. All they've got is semen, DNA from semen. In light of the pathologist saying that it was not rape, doesn't mean it couldn't be rape, but he cannot say it was rape. You cannot say this guy killed these girls based on that. I don't believe it. Yeah, I'm wide open, but the only evidence they have is somewhat of a timeline. Unfortunately, I think one of his attorneys placed him in the car. Big mistake. That then you get into who wiped down the prints is the next question.
Exactly. I thought about that too.
I mean, you don't. I don't want to be.
I couldn't hear.
Want to.
He's like
go down
going
that
in and
road.
out. What you thought about?
The testing can help.
I can't hear it.
She can't hear you.
It's like a piano playing or something. Like I can hear him when he sits
No,
up.
you have something playing in your background. You have to close everything out, Jeanette. You have to close everything in your back. You don't have YouTube on or anything like that?
No, ma'am. It like just started going like in and out. Like I was trying to. That's why I keep moving up and down, trying to.
Yeah, you might have to mute when he's talking. Mute your yourself while he's talking. That'll help. John, go ahead. Repeat yourself.
Ma'am?
Repeat yourself. She didn't hear you.
Oh, I just think that you've got to do these tests. And I think you try to fill in the blanks of what happened that night, especially before they went back to the store the second time and what happened after they left the store. So you've got a cast of play. Let me ask you just a common sense question. If these girls went to the store, made a phone call, we don't know who they called, they then go out to a party about 7 minutes away and then come back, who were the people they were around at that party and why have they never come forward?
They were never.
They have never identified all these people. In my experience is people lie for a reason. If someone lies, they're lying for a reason. And so you have all these people that are scared. What are they scared of? If the narrative that the prosecution put forward is correct, that doesn't explain that.
It was determined they never went to a party.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said it was determined they never went to a party.
Well, they did.
Did you hear
There's
me,
witness
Mr.
statements, there's sworn statements that show that.
Sir?
There's sworn statements that they gave the people, witnesses gave the police that they went to a party.
From what we
One gentleman
understand,
identified
they
the
did not.
clothing and had a conversation with Tracy Hollett.
Yeah, they said
Clothing
that
matches what's in the autopsy.
the person that was over the party states that they never went to the party.
Yeah, that was the other party. There were two parties on Highway 36. All right, this is one of the keys to solving this case, because the girls they tried to go to one party on Highway 36. And I think this is the one your attorneys talked about. The police found out about that party. They went out there and they interviewed a bunch of witnesses, and no one saw these girls. Okay. But there was another witness, a couple, that said, yeah, we're going to that party, but the one we stopped at, we realized we didn't know anybody. And then up walks Tracy Hollett. So there were actually two parties on that same road a few miles apart. And the girls went to one of those parties and talked about going swimming at some bridges. I have the statement. I've taken photographs of it and talked to the chief about it. I mean, it just happened. It's confusing because there were actually two different parties on the same road, county road. So the police just missed it, in my opinion. But the comment about going swimming that Tracy Hollett made is really interesting, because it puts them at that bridge where people go swimming, and they talk about people camping that night. And that's a place where there's a lot of mud and water. Excuse me.
Did they take any footprints, analysis, or anything like that? With all the mud, it should have been mud of somebody else's footprint. Or, I'm just thinking out the box right now.
It was a footprint in the car, but they didn't have any sizes or anything to it. So it was a footprint in the driver's side.
John, could you tell who you are again? Because a couple of people are asking who you are.
I'm just a photographer. I mean, I'm retired. I worked as an architect and planner for 27 years. Then I worked for a short period for a municipal police department. And I worked for a court in a capital murder investigation as an investigator. Definitely not a cop background, but know enough.
So how did you get involved? Explain to them how you got involved in this case, because they weren't here earlier.
Say that again.
Explain to how you got involved in this case, how you interviewed the Mr. Beasley. How did you get involved in this case?
Well, I met a senior law enforcement officer that lived in Ozark, Alabama, that had researched the case for nearly a decade. And he and I became friends. And, I was looking for photography, documentary film projects. And he shared a lot of information. I reviewed a lot of his files, took a lot of pictures. And then through the years, once I started researching it, people would bring me things, share things, So we've been working on it now at least 8 years. But I don't know that we're just kind of following the process. We're not really doing a whodunit. That's my approach anyway. Just the effect it has on the community, sometimes how the court system fails us, and put photographs to that where people can see where this took place. So it's definitely not a whodunit, a Dateline thing or something like that. That's just not my interest.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming, but we're definitely going to do another part 2, because I really want to dig in, because you said you made a comment, John, about if you want to go through the evidence, and I want to do that. I'll take you up on that.
I missed the first part of that.
When you mentioned about if you could walk us through the evidence and things like that, I take you up on what you just said to us a few minutes ago.
Yeah. You want me to talk about that now?
No,
Is that
we
what
could
you want?
come back. No, we can come back. We can set a date because there are people who wants to go bed and
Sure.
they're
We
tired.
can do that.
So Tammy, the next discussion, we're going to discuss what John mentioned about how, going through the evidence of certain things that he depicted on that. As well as I do have a couple of individuals who did podcasts on this case. So I'm going to bring up their information and things like that to share some light, because a lot of people don't know what happened. All they know, what I remember about this case is they found some girls shot in the car. That's what I remember back, because I had just had my baby. I was home from on maternity leave, and I heard about the story because I was living in Tennessee. So that's how I heard about this. And then all of a sudden, wow, voila, 20 something years later. So how about tomorrow? Is that a good time tomorrow, same time?
Sure.
I'm fine.
Yeah. I can email you some stuff if you'd like to review it first,
Please do.
That way
Email
you
me
have some documents to back up what we're talking about. And, there's several people that I'd recommend you look at. I think there's some young people.
Okay.
One of the former Ozark police officers that testified in this case is Officer Dean Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a daughter, Michaela Matthews, that has really been, she does a lot of TikTok type video work, but it's, she has a pretty aggressive mind and has tried to pursue this case because she thinks it's an injustice.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a guy writing a book about it that's a very talented journalist that's now a professor of journalism out in California. And I can try to connect you to him if you would like to. He's, everybody has different opinions about it. I would like to say to Miss McCraney, though, to be very careful. My experience in this court system down here is the local media and the courts will work to marginalize and discredit anyone that speaks up against them.
You're going in and out, John.
They're going to try to discredit Miss McCraney. They're going to try.
Hold on a second, John. Hold on. She doesn't hear you. Jeanette, mute yourself, and John, repeat what you're going to say to her.
I would just say that my experience in the courts down here, there's going to, in the local media as well, will work to marginalize and try to discredit voices like Miss McCraney's or anyone that questions this. And I think that's really bad because they pressure people to shut up and not question what they want. And, I can't speak for the McCraneys, but I can tell you most people want is everything to be put on the table, transparent and open. And you can't have a hidden court that's not allowed to be watched or recorded. You can't make it difficult to get transcripts. You can't steal stuff. Everything needs to be put out on the table. But I would caution Ms. McCraney to be on guard because what they're going to try to do is discredit her voice and anybody else, and she's just fighting for her husband. And she's got just as valid a voice, as anybody, including the prosecutor or the attorney general. She knows what she experienced. And I know what I've experienced, and there are a lot of people, and that voice needs to stay out there and don't get discouraged when the people like in Dothan at these TV stations are just awful. All they do is parrot what the police or the prosecutor.
Yep.
I just encourage you not keep your faith, don't let that get you down.
Oh, don't worry. And far as the local media, they're all biased. That's why I want to speak with Miss Sylvia and Miss Tammy, because I know they'll speak just what we're saying. They're going to let that out. So I have no regards to talk to any local media, and my voice will not go silent because to me this is injustice. So I'm gonna keep on raising awareness to it the right way.
Right.
Okay. There is a rally that's going on this Saturday at Justice Park in Dothan, Alabama at 9 a.m. I think Tammy with Dot Chu. Tammy's the one, and Facebook guys, go and subscribe to her, friend her. In it was her video that got me involved in this, as well as Miss Jeanette reaching out to me. So guys, if you want to support any kind of way, is there any kind of things that you're doing as far as like someone asked about if you're doing t-shirts or something like that? Somebody asked, TTS, something about t-shirt. Because we definitely have to get the word out, get the information out to the people, because knowledge is power. If people understand what happened and the stuff that went on in this case, especially John having so much knowledge in this and investigating and understanding some of the things that doesn't make sense, help us, the people that don't know anything about it, educate us on what happened, how we can help. You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to some t-shirt companies in regards to that, but they said they wouldn't have them in time for Saturday's rally. However, I can go ahead and send them to them. They said it takes usually 7 to 10 days. So I'm going to submit a design to everyone on the .2 and let them just start telling me what they want, what sizes. So I will have some for our next rally. We'll be ready for the next rally. It's just short notice for this one.
Okay. And John, I will see you guys like same time tomorrow around 7 p.m. Is that okay? My time,
Sure.
7 or in 6 of your time, because I'm on 1 hour ahead of you. Is
Okay.
6 o'clock okay for you, John? Jeanette?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, John, for enlightening us. And Jeanette, thank you for allowing me to spread the news of exactly what's going on in your case. And I'm here for you. You're welcome to this platform. So and John, don't forget to send me the stuff.
I will. And,
Okay.
and Ms. McCraney, I know that, I know the community we live in, but let me tell you, there are a lot of people that look like me, that sound like me, that you've got our prayers. What happened to these girls is absolutely awful, but we do not feel that the answers have been provided. So don't feel like we're against you at all. Please
I
don't.
understand. And I thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're not alone any longer. You got a whole village here.
Thank you. That makes me feel great. That'll make him feel good.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for posting to this live. We'll be back on tomorrow, 7 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock Central Time. Okay, everybody. And Jeanette, I'll talk to you later. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, good people. You guys keep her in your prayer. Ask God to continue to strengthen her as she go through what she went through, because I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So I thank everybody that's in here. Kayla, if you don't mind, can you email me, please? Somebody put my email in the chat, because I really would like to talk to Kayla. I just saw her in here. Kayla Matthews. Someone put her email, put my email, mods, put my email in here. And Kayla, could you please email me, because I would love to talk to you and get the information from your YouTube. All right, guys. Mods, put my email, please. Where's my mods at? No, my mod, Sparks. This is Sparks. 1565 at gmail.com. Okay. Did y'all put it? Thank you, Lady Coltrane. That's my email. Kayla, if you're still in here, that's my email. Email me. I would love to speak with you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you to the family members who came in to the chat, all those who are involved. And I know there's quite a few of you guys that didn't get a chance to say anything in the chat, but I look forward to working with every single one of you guys. Love you guys, because God, remember y'all, God has a mission for all of us. My mods, my My ride and dies. We got this, right? All right. Have a good one, guys. Bye.